Kerr fan, but you go back to, gosh, was it 2017 or so? And he'd coached them through 73 wins and championships. And do you remember this, Alan? He actually at one point said, "You know what? I let them choose the lineups because they're not even listening to me." This was years ago. He said that. Obviously a motivational ploy, but it does look like now, like whatever he's telling them, either it's not getting through or they're just not physically capable of executing the things he wants them to execute. It is alarming.
It is alarming. And very similar to that, I saw a lot of things on, just Dub Nation social media saying, all right, it's time to have a players-only meeting. I don't know where you're at with the players-only meetings. Do we actually have any proof that players-only meetings work? I don't know. I know that they happen, and I know that sometimes, hey, we feel better about this. You know who just had a players-only, and I know it's completely different. You know who had a players-only meeting?
Who?
The Grizzlies did, led by Steven Adams.
That's right, they
did.
The
night that Ja Morant went out, and the rest is history. And I know that the Warriors are not the Grizzlies. I don't know if a players meeting helps because we're so far in the season. Whitey, it's hard for me to believe that they haven't already had one. Mm-hmm. That's my question. Do you need to have another? I have no clue.
By the way, you know what the key to a successful players-only meeting is?
What is it?
Going to baseball. Boach, I think, was and probably still is a master of this. And actually, well, it's a team meeting because a players-only meeting, the manager doesn't call it. But when he would call a team meeting, they would do it before a game that you're almost certainly going to win. Like you're playing, you're having a rough stretch, and then you're playing somebody that's down, and maybe they have a starter that you're like, we know we can destroy this guy. That's when you have the team meeting. Players-only meeting is a little different, but that's one of the keys to a successful team meeting because, like, hey, we got to turn this thing around, but you got to make sure that you're doing it right before a game that you're probably going to win.
Right.
Coach is really good at that.
Well, you got the Bucks and the Suns, so you might want to table that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So remember early in the season when they spoke with Clay, there was a conversation with Clay about some of the shots he was taking.
And I think it was after the Phoenix game that you already cited.
Would that count? Was that a players-only meeting, or was that a Clay-specific thing?
Yeah, it sounds like it was. I don't know. Sounds like it was maybe a players-only meeting. That's a great question. We have to look into that. I think part of the problem now would be who would call it, and I mean everybody would be pointing at everybody, right?
Right now,
yeah. That was kind of like an intervention, like, "Hey, Clay, this is how we all feel." If you had one now, it'd be like everybody. No, it's his fault. It's your fault. Oh, what do we do? We don't know what we're doing. You don't know what you're. No, you don't know what you're doing. All right, look out, and it could actually get turn into a physical altercation, which would not be beneficial.
Well, yes, and that's because there is a track record that Dylan Brooks. And by the way, Dylan Brooks, he got at Draymond last night, and he said, "Well, I'm not out here assaulting my own team. Look, if the low blows are going to go, they're going to go, and there was nothing that anybody could do. There's nothing anybody could say. We already discussed, the Draymond piece of it.
Oh, we're just getting started on all of it.
But I do think, going back to your point and to give the counter on that, because it's everybody, it could get chippy. But if there's any team, and I know there was a Draymond situation, but you have three guys on that team that have the longest tenures on the same team in Steph, Clay, and Draymond. If they can't have a successful team meeting that by themselves, then nobody should anymore, because I think this is a good opportunity because everybody has some culpability to say we all have to be better. So we got to figure this thing out. So it's less about pointing fingers at one another or, hey, it's a Clay thing or it's a whoever thing. Draymond last game, he had his issue.
Yeah.
Clay this game, he had that issue. Jordan Poole just is allergic to playing defense. Everybody has a piece of this terrible tasting pie, so maybe it could work. I don't know.
I would like to know if Draymond did address the team at all. I know we talked to Coach Kerr a couple days ago about the play 2 games ago, where Draymond gave up, and Coach Kerr said he knows he can't do that, and we spoke about it. Mm-hmm. Did he address the team? I mean, because he should, right? If you're a team leader and you give up on the team, that has to be acknowledged. Like, you know what, everybody, I know we stink right now, but what I did can't happen.
Yeah.
That's on me. Mm-hmm. So maybe, until a guy like that does that, how could you even have a team meeting if your team leader's not going to acknowledge that, yes, I gave up on us on a play?
The Bucks game, that has to be the ABC National, right?
Yes.
So I think it is I know what Bochy said, but you don't have an opportunity for that. I think this is a good a good situation to say, look, I know we're not trying to get embarrassed at home on national television against a team that if we do get our act together, we could face in the finals.
Who calls it, Alan? I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I understand it's an interesting idea. Who calls it and what do they say?
It would be Steph, I think, because if you remember last year, he kicked the chair and they had the winning streak after he kicked the chair. So when Steph gets upset, they go on runs. I think it would have to be Steph because he's the only one that has the least culpability because he hasn't been playing. So he comes back, and now they're 0-3 with his return. Look, Steph hasn't been perfect either. But I do think it would have to be Steph. I just think Draymond is that guy, and I know because I'm a talker. Draymond talks too much. So when you hear from Draymond, it's easy to drown out everything because he never stops talking. But somebody like Steph, who doesn't talk all the time, and look, Steph 4 turnovers. So everybody has something to say or has a piece of this. But I would say it would have to be, and we know Draymond's the emotional leader. No, it's got to come from the real deal leader, and that's Steph Curry.
Yeah, when you give up on your team, that's definitely a lack of leading, emotional or otherwise. 888-957-9570. RJ in Napa joins us. RJ, what is the reason for the Warriors' struggles of late?
Okay, so it's 2 things, guys. Thanks for taking the call. The first thing is they're just getting old. I think the play in particular with Clay, that was just a business decision, not to get on the floor and get the ball. I mean, that's another tweak on the knee, another tweak on the Achilles, and he figured the ball was going out of bounds, so why worry about it? The second thing, which is kind of the bigger issue, I'm sorry, but I've been saying this for about a year and a half, and sounds like people are starting to agree with me, but I've never seen a player praised more for doing less than Jordan Poole. And the double standard that the Warriors let him get away with versus, shipping a guy like James Wiseman out of town. The rap on James Wiseman was, well, he can score, but he can't do a lot else other than that. Okay, what do you think Jordan Poole's doing? And I think the veterans see that, and it creates a real divide. So thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, RJ, and good luck. It sounded like the giant boulder from Indiana Jones was like rolling towards him or something there towards the end of the call.
Yeah, I hope. Stay safe.
Yeah, get out of the way. Jordan Poole, I think, has a lot to do with some of these issues. I'm not saying it's his fault, but he seems to be the fulcrum of a lot of the feelings of disconnectedness, if I may. That's even a word.
From the jump in Xfinity Mobile text line 415, is it possible Poole just had a fluke good year last year?
I think Jordan Poole's being asked to do more than he's capable of doing on the Warriors. He's asked to step in and be Steph when Steph's not there and provide instant offense, and I think he's very inconsistent, and I think he's still developing. But the fact that he doesn't play defense, you're right. I mean, he's a terrible defender. And so he's not a good fit for the way they play, in my opinion. He's got a lot of talent. He can score. Last night his numbers were pretty decent. But as I said a couple days ago, I don't think Jordan Poole's a good fit for the way the Warriors want to play. So does that mean, well, we got to move them? Does that mean they're going to change the way they play? They got some big questions they're going to have to address in the offseason.
Yeah, and you pay...
Unless they win it all.
And you paid a guy who, when the team is at full strength, he plays the worst. That, to me, is logistically a problem. Right? If you're getting more value, more ROI for all you techies out there and sales guys, if you are getting a better ROI when your best player is out from another guy that you just paid, that's not a great business model. You need somebody that's going to give you at least a similar ROI regardless of the situation. And Jordan Poole is just wildly different. And last season, I had more grace for him. And I do get that he's being asked to do a lot of different things. But I'm looking towards the future. This season, I have no clue what's going to happen. But just assuming, Steph's back, so it's going to take Jordan Poole 7 games to figure it out. That's a problem. And it's also a problem because either way, during those 7 games, when he's trash on offense, he's still trash on defense. That's an issue. So I know they're going to take a look at that because there are some guys. I mean, I don't know if it's an apples to oranges comparison, but I mean, or if it's closer than what people think. But I look at a Desmond Bane, and I think last year, and Desmond Bane had a great season last year.
He's a really good player.
But I do think that there would be some conversations last year it would be more of an argument. Well, who would you want on your squad? Jordan Poole or Desmond Bain? I don't know. Jordan Poole and that upside. He can do this. He can do that. This year, I don't even think it's a question. I don't think it's a question that you would rather have Desmond Bain. I don't think it's a question. So that's not great because we are paying you to go up, not the plateau.
Why they paid him when they felt they needed to pay him. They thought they were going to save money. We want to keep him. We pay him now. If he's on the open market, we can match it, but someone's going to pay him more. I know Joe Lacob addressed that. Said we had good reason to think someone else was going to pay him a lot of money. I would not have paid him. They did, and now they've got what appears to be as much of a problem as a solution to their problems.
I think that and we spoke about this a little bit on Wednesday. I do believe I wasn't mad at them paying him. But it was a gamble. And as of right now, the gamble isn't really paying off.